is this time. So, do you get to spend much time down here? Is it just work for you?
It's just work, yeah. It's, this is a season where people shoot films, so everybody's always working at the same time, right?
Yeah.
So when we come in fast and we do everything we can, and then we're out again.
Otherwise you get a cold like me.
I might not. I'm postponing it a little.
So, were you familiar with this story before you got involved?
No. I did not. I know about Kleist, of course, but I've never heard about this story. And so the story came to me through the script and through the director.
Right. And what was it about that script and the director that appealed to you?
Well, it was radical. It was not something you normally see. It was not built up classical with the point of no return, and then this happens, and then it was a different structure. And his ways of maneuvering around in his own universe was quite different from a normal person, and I find it quite intriguing.
And what really appealed to me, or one of the fascinating things, is the gritty realism in which it's portrayed. It's not sort of glamorised at all in any way.
No.
What was that like to play? I mean, you were walking around filthy dirty.
Yeah.
You know,
but that's what it was, and we were dirty, and we were out there 24/7 in the nature with the horses, and that's how we looked. So that, I think, if we have done something else, I would have read that in the script as well. It felt gritty, it felt real in many ways.
Yeah. I mean, he makes some decisions which have consequences without giving too much of the story. Can you relate to the character in his sort of noble?
Yeah, I can, unfortunately, quite easily relate to his search for justice. Obviously, he's taking it to an extreme point.
Yeah.
But he also a man that if he says A, he will go all the way. And that's what he is. If he was just an angry man, he would have gotten out somewhere else, would have hit the wall, kicked the bucket. He's not doing that. He wants justice, and he wants to do it his way.
Yeah. I mean, you take on an array of roles, and you do sort of Hollywood numbers and European cinema. How do the two compare, or do you have a preference between the two?
No, I do not. I mean, but basically, I grew up with drama, of course, in Denmark. That's where my heart lies. But I also grew up with American cinemas and this gentleman, Mr. Spielberg, and Raiders of the Lost Ark. And I think there are so many genres that deserve to be part of this business. And if I can go back and forth, I feel like a lucky man.
And you can act in a number of languages as well.
Yeah, I have.
In this film with French. What sort of challenge is it? A challenge at all, or do you have to put your French cap on, or your English cap, or is it easy?
It's an enormous challenge. I mean, I speak French to a very little degree, so it's not something I'm like on top of. So that was an enormous challenge to make it part of me, to make it to be able to be free in the language, and that's what we're always trying to achieve. Not necessarily be without an accent, but at least feel free, so we can be free enough to act, which is our predominantly job, of course.
So your French must be excellent now.
No, when I drink it's much better.
I spoke to Marianne Cotillard the other day, and she learned Polish, but I think verbatim for her latest role. But she said once filming stops, she forgets everything.
Yeah.
I don't know, is that the same?
No, it's not quite the same. I mean, we were speaking French for 4 months constantly, so some things are stuck. Obviously, if you don't keep it up, it will disappear. Yeah. But we always meet a couple of people who speak French. So.
Yeah. You've done incredibly well within your career. When did it all start from? What was the starting point? What did you learn?
Well, my starting point was with Nicholas Winding Refn. We started out doing a film called Pusher 16 years ago, I think. Maybe even more. And that was when I started and he started, and then it just took off from there. We were a large generation of Danish people working in the business that wanted to do something different. And we got fairly free hands, and for that reason as well, I think Denmark has been placed on the map.
Yeah. And what would you say was the turning point, or the moment in your career where you kind of opened up to a wider audience?
Well, a wide audience is there's many things that comes predominantly if you do TV. You know, TV is a wide audience, and then I did that after some years as an actor, and I was quite a shock because having done other films that was fairly acclaimed but not as big as TV, all of a sudden you it was a different thing walking on the street and buying a packet of cigarettes was very different all of a sudden.
Yeah, I'm sure. And as you just mentioned there, Danish cinema, Scandinavian cinema is kind of going through a kind of a purple patch at the moment. What does that attribute to?
Well, as I said before, the whole generation that started obviously with Lars von Trier and his dogma things, but even before that we had groups of people doing their own things like Thomas Vinterberg, Nicholas Raffen and SOUNDBITE. And they had their own little groups, but they were very determined to do the films they wanted to do, and so that inspired a lot of other people. And it's always the case, if you give the film to the director, something will happen. It can either be terrible or it can be fantastic, but something will happen.
Yeah. And so what's on the horizon for you? What's next?
Right now I'm shooting a western in South Africa, and so I'm going back to finish that one, and in 3 weeks I will hopefully be on a vacation somewhere.
English?
No, well, it's in American, of course, but it's a Danish film.
Right, okay, great. I look forward to it. Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
I've got everything there. Okay, thank you. Sort of counting down the days now until I can go.
It's tomorrow.
Monday.
Monday, okay.
Yeah. Can we swap mics so that yeah, so that it's more important that I get your translation than my voice. So okay, so put that down there. You okay?
Right.
So I think your previous film was in Venice, and you have this film here in Cannes. How did the two experiences compare, and how has Cannes been for you this year so far?
Je dirais simplement que rétrospectivement, Cannes, Venise me paraît plus calme, mais c'était aussi très émouvant. Je pense que Venise, c'était la première fois que j'allais dans un grand festival. Voilà, de toute façon, rien n'est comparable. Les deux films sont très différents. Les deux, moi-même, je ne suis pas la même personne. Non, je ne sais pas. J'ai pas grand-chose de plus à dire que ça.
In hindsight, Venice appears that it's a little bit quieter than here, but that was the first time I was at a big festival. It's really difficult to compare. That both films were very different, and I'm not the same person I was then either.
So, with this particular story, when did you become familiar with it, and what was it about the story that appealed to you?
J'ai découvert ce texte à 25 ans. Par un ami étudiant en cinéma qui avait le projet de l'adapter. Et donc, j'ai été très bouleversé par la fulgurance et la complexité du texte. Je pense que j'avais un rêve un peu enfantin, enfin un peu juvénile, du film que ça pourrait faire. Mais je suis bien heureux d'avoir attendu parce que je pense que si je l'avais adapté trop jeune cinéaste, je pense que j'aurais été trop respectueux de la littérature. Et j'ai appris en regardant les différentes adaptations qui ont été faites qu'il me semblait qu'un trop grand respect de Kleist n'était pas forcément la bonne option, qu'on ne pouvait pas, de près ou de loin, faire en cinéma quelque chose qui s'apparente à la puissance de la littérature. Il faut faire autre chose. Et j'avais besoin de me constituer un peu plus comme cinéaste pour pouvoir compter sur mes instincts de cinéaste en m'emparant de cette histoire, qui est un très grand chef-d'œuvre de la littérature, Et on sait que c'est très dangereux d'adapter des chefs-d'œuvre littéraires. Même, on dit souvent qu'adapter un chef-d'œuvre donne de mauvais films, et que les très grands films sont souvent des adaptations de livres médiocres. Je vous en prie.
I discovered the text when I first discovered the text when I was 25. A friend of mine who was attending film school showed it to me, and then I was overwhelmed by the incandescence and complexity of the novella.
Sorry, guys.
But it was a juvenile dream of mine that I wanted to make a film about, and in a way I'm glad that I wasn't able to. I think that if I'd attacked the work too early, then I probably would have been too respectful of the text. It was important that I create myself, that I form my identity, to be able to trust my instincts, so that I wasn't too respectful of Kleist and was able to find an approach that was my own, an approach that was right for the film. The danger, I learned a great deal from watching previous screen adaptations of the novel. There have been there have been several of them, and the danger is, I think, that one's too respectful. I think it's very difficult to make an adaptation of a huge literary masterpiece. In fact, often people say that it's easier to make a great film out of a mediocre book than to make a great film out of a great book.
Sorry about my cough. Cannes has got the better of me. I've been here for 2 weeks. I woke up this morning feeling terrible. What I found fascinating was the gritty realism of your portrayal. Was that something that was important for you to tell the story in this way, to show it as it really was, as opposed to sort of glamorizing it in any way?
C'était la chose la plus importante. C'est exactement ce que j'étais en train de vous dire précédemment. Le cinéma, pour moi, c'est ça. C'est de faire vivre une expérience physique au spectateur. C'est là où je peux faire quelque chose que la littérature ne fait pas. Et c'est là, je crois, l'essentiel de mon travail de mise en scène. C'est de donner corps à l'idée de Kleist. On ne fait pas de films avec des idées, on fait des films avec des corps, avec des êtres vivants. Et toute l'entreprise est que ça demeure vivant dans le film, que le film palpite. C'est seulement, à mon avis, à ce prix-là qu'on reçoit l'idée. Donc c'était la chose, effectivement, la plus importante pour moi. Que ce soit vivant.
That's the most important thing for me as a director. I'm trying to, as I was saying before, it's the question of life, and that's the one thing that cinema can do that I think that literature can't do. That it's my task as a filmmaker to immerse my spectators into a physical experience, and that allows me to express things that literature can't. That's the essential of my work. What I'm concentrating on is to give a body, to give life to these ideas. To create bodies, to create a physical world for my films. My undertaking is to keep this alive, to give it a life, to keep the heart of the film beating. And that's what my work consists of and what I concentrate on.
Thank you very much. Sorry for my cough.